What is happening out there, Roto Scouts, basketball and football fans? Welcome to a Monday show, gang. Good to see everybody. Starting up a little late, 5:02, already later than I wanted to be. Still trying to just scrambling, getting these dashboards together. A lot of sims running, a lot of copy pasting back and forth through these different files. So I just need to copy a couple things real quick into the NBA projections. But I figured might as well start the show so that you guys aren't just sitting here. You got my gorgeous mug to look at for a minute. So I need that. Fortunately, it won't be all that long. It should just be a couple of things to copy paste here. But what's going on, everybody? Good weekends? I had a good weekend. We're off from shows over the weekend. Saw my niece in the Nutcracker, which was a lot of fun. Just went down for the evening down to Red Bank, Count Basie Theater, and saw them do the show. It's good. It's a mix of like a touring company and then the kids from the ballet school and everything. So a little higher level than like the average, kid pageant type show. So that was good. It's always enjoyable. Little dinner after that, just Chili's, fun time. Nothing crazy. But we did that and then came back, got all the football content done, but there was no football show over the weekend. Messy football slate for me. Not a great one. The call, I felt like I was on most of the stuff that I wrote about. I did like a "this is what I would have said" version of the group's article and tried to get most of the thoughts that would have been in the show down. But I thought I was on top of everything, but just did not work out. But we move on. Live to fight another day. We've got a 2-game NFL slate. If we're going to have that kind of a show, this isn't going to be good. We got a lot to cover and not that much time. We've got a 2-game NFL slate tonight. So no showdown discussion, no lineup builder talk. But what I did do is run sims. They've run. Just hoping that the DraftKings one worked with the upload. I did it really, really quickly. So if I missed like one thing in there, it might have killed the sim. So we'll find out later on in the show. But what I'm thinking for NFL, I've got the board, mostly set up. We'll just talk through some of the projections, the plays, and then we'll take a look at some sim results and just see how it, came through on the sims. For basketball, we do the usual routine, but we might do it a little bit faster. That's what I'm hoping for. 6:15-ish is like my target time to get out of here. I would like to have some time because I'm going to have to update, I'm sure, a bunch of changes. There's a 13-game basketball slate tonight. So, just I guess without further ado, let's fire that up. So it's a 13-gamer for basketball. We are looking at our usual info here. And I know that I'm going to have to update some stuff after the show. So, like I was saying, I'm going to try and get us out by like 6:15 while still doing a decent rundown of this slate. How's that look? That's too high. I hate these things being all different sizes too. It would just be nice if it was one consistent. This is how it looks. All right, so whopper of a slate. Let me say hi to everybody. We do have 13 people who made their way in on short notice for a late show. I appreciate that, and hopefully more trickling in the next little bit. But I appreciate you guys. Hit the like for me if you get a chance. But what's up, Greg? Greg being Cohn's here as always. Travis Wyndham's here. Matthew Patterson. Matthew loves a good play. Appreciate that. And Cujo Blue, of course. Cujo says, "Great Monday, my boys won. Hope everyone is having a good day, a great day. Not even a good day. Cujo wishes us all a great day." Cujo's always the first one in the door. I love it. So getting into this 13-game monstrosity of a basketball slate, let me get this thing sorted. We're not currently sorted, so don't take these as your win rates. Let's see who didn't come through the DK sim first. Malik Monk, why didn't he? Oh, that's annoying. Anthony Gill, who cares? But Malik Monk, why the fuck did he not go through? Hold on. I wonder if I can rerun that DK sim real quick. Does he not? That's what happens when I have no time. Why would he have not gone through? He's right there. Maybe his results just aren't showing? That's annoying. FanDuel. There he is, blank. So he came through on the FanDuel one and he didn't go through on the DK one, but he doesn't have a weird name on DK. He just wasn't in that upload? Oh, that's annoying. 5.2 on the points per dollar too. He's gonna be kind of a piece. What's going on, Jason Turner? Paul C. What's up, Trav? Apologies for starting the show with a little bit of a headache with this Malik Monk thing. Let me turn my phone sounds off. I'm going to see how quickly I can rerun a DraftKings sim. Hold on. It shouldn't take long. I think I've still got their... wait. I don't, because I took it out because I'm a dumbass. If I just hit undo, does it now? Nope. Didn't want to do that. All right, hang on one sec. Let me rerun this. I want to get him in there. But then if I do that, I'm gonna have to get a little. So, what do you guys think of this football slate tonight? Let's talk a little bit of football while we're doing this. It's gonna be a fuck. This is the NFL sheet. You know what? I'm gonna talk around this Malik Monk thing. We just don't have time. On DraftKings, apologies. Consider that Malik Monk is going to land in this general territory, maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower, but he does look like he's going to be a reasonably good play on the DK slate as well. Got him at a 29-minute projection on FanDuel for 5,600. He's coming up 25% in the top ones, 27% in winners. Actually, on DK, he is a little bit more expensive. 6,100 point guard, shooting guard, 5.20 points per dollar. 1.12 point per minute player, but thinking through the salary difference there, and then we'll get into the position by position of it, but let's see where everybody else fell. We've got some value plays at that level. We've got multiple similar points per dollar type guys. I feel like he would be in the mix, but probably sub 20% is a guess. Apologies for that one not going through. I have no idea why that wouldn't have gone through that sim. It was just missing. He doesn't have a weird name. So apologies for that one. But I think he'll look a little bit better where we see him on FanDuel here for just, a little bit cheaper, same positioning as it usually works. Anthony Gill doesn't look like he went through either sim for whatever reason, or maybe he just didn't get any results. So just ignore him. We're going to take these guys. Well, I'll leave Malik Monk in there for now. I'm just going to delete Anthony Gill just because who cares? So looking at the rest of the board, Isaiah Hartenstein, monster piece on both slates. 4,900 power forward and center on the FanDuel board. On DraftKings, he's a $4,600 option, center only. Hartenstein's going to be getting major minutes with no Mitch Robinson. Mitch, if you missed it, I'm going for foot surgery, out 8 to 10 weeks. Probably going to be, a little longer than that, just knowing Mitch and his history and getting back from these injuries and everything, and how feet are for big men. So it's the Hartenstein show for until future notice in New York. And this is a player that Tibbs already really trusts, and he's a very good dynamic player. I've talked about him in his backup role in the past, about how he's an underrated passer. He's a very, very good rebounder. He can score the ball. So it's a definite hit to the Knicks. But in terms of fantasy, this is actually us picking up a pretty good piece. Mitch has had a great season. He gets his points on a lot of blocks, steals, rebounds. Hartenstein does a little bit more in terms of the offensive plays. He's not the blocked shot fanatic that Mitch can be. But he's a not equal rebounder, but he's game to the task for rebounding, and he picks up fantasy points in other ways. So 6.29 points per dollar is massive on DK, 6.21 on FanDuel. Can't say enough about getting Hartenstein into your lineups tonight. We will probably see these prices go up pretty quickly into the sixes, that kind of a range, like a Clint Capella kind of a range. Not saying that he's necessarily that good of a player, but I'm not saying he's not. 0.98 fantasy points, 0.98 FanDuel points per minute, 0.93 DraftKings points per minute. Yeah, quickly picked up a late Q tag. Thank you, Paul. Pretty sure I had that. I had the 3:30 update up on the site. So that's actually, I appreciate you mentioning it though, because there are an absolute ton of potential changes. So let me run through those real quick, and then we'll dig in. So real quick, this is as of the 3:30 report. So there was a 4:30 in between. Who knows what changed on that? Changes will be made to projections after 6. But Caleb Martin available, Duncan Robinson available, Jamal Murray, Patrick Williams, both probable, Dylan Brooks available. Questionable players: Jalen Suggs, Jonathan Isaac, Aaron Neesmith, Kyle Lowry, Joel Embiid, DeAndre Hunter, Jalen Brunson, Emmanuel Quickley, Alex Caruso, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Jordan McLaughlin, Reggie Bullock, Tari Eason, John Collins, Malik Monk, DeAndre Ayton, and Malcolm Brogdon. Out, Karis LeVert, in addition to guys who have just like kind of been out. These are guys who are, current status out or maybe, on their way back soon. Karis LeVert, Evan Mobley, Jalen Smith, Andrew Nembhard, Marvin Bagley, doubtful, Jalen Duren, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Harrow, Haywood Highsmith, LaMelo Ball, Nick Smith, Mark Williams, both doubtful. Daniel Gafford hit the out during the afternoon. Landry Shamet, Delon Wright, Otto Porter, Mitch Robinson, Zach LaVine, Pat Connaughton, Kyrie Irving, Grant Williams, Larry Nance, Matt Ryan, Walker Kessler, Lou Dort, Dennis Smith Jr., Jeremy Grant. It's like reading a casualties list from a Civil War battle. So, all those guys are out. We've got some established value on this board already. Nick Richards, questionable to play, showing a lot of value on DraftKings at 4,600. 25% winner at the center position, where you're not getting Hartenstein, you're getting a lot of Nick Richards. I imagine a lot of those shares are floating between center and util, like we usually see with the value plays on DraftKings. Getting both of them is kind of interesting. We'll see if we come up with any in Sims where we got both of those guys, center and util, and then just went nuts in some of the other spots. Seth Curry with the expectation of a decent chunk of minutes, showing some value again on DraftKings. 24% winner over there for 41. Shooting guard only, 5.12 points per dollar. 0.83 fantasy points per minute so far this season on DK. Not awful. On FanDuel, 4,800 shooting guard only. Not that much use for him, just 1.03% winner. Dante Exum picking up more minutes, 30-minute projection for him. He's better looking on the FanDuel slate, 15.25% winner, 5.3 points per dollar. He's been a 1.03 points per minute player so far, 25.7 minutes the other night, put up 28.7. On DK, he's a 22.5% winner for 5,700. He's got that point guard small forward eligibility on DK, which is always fun. Shooting guard, point guard on FanDuel is helpful. Tyrese Halliburton projected for a monster. He's 11-7 on the FanDuel slate. He is expensive on FanDuel. Well worth it. Total luxury item. Pay up if you can get to him. 3.45% winner on the FanDuel slate. On DK, he's still only 10-9. I know it's, against the lower cap, so it's a relative price, but you can see it in the points per dollar. 5.75 points per dollar for Tyrese Halliburton. You're getting too much points per dollar from a star caliber player there. So I think you grab Hallie. He's coming through as a 20% winner. We don't see all that many stars, come through on a massive slate like this at that high a win rate. So that's a really good piece on DraftKings. I like him on FanDuel. I will have some. I think the raw scoring potential is something you might need, but he looks a lot better on DraftKings. A lot of values going through these 3s and 6s and so on as we go down the board. Kawhi Leonard standing out on the DraftKings slate a little bit. Looks like a little bit more than the other Clippers right now. Typically, we've been going back and forth between those guys a little bit, but Kawhi? Wow. We're struggling. Kawhi. For 8,100 on DraftKings, 20% winner. On FanDuel, you can see the price is still kind of holding him down. 8,800 both forward spots, 7% winner. Looks perfectly fine and playable over there, but more of an is who he is kind of result at the right price. On DraftKings, that 81 has him as a pretty frequent winner, so that's a nice piece of underpriced high-end player. I don't know if we want to call him cheap star, however you want to label Kawhi at this point. That is pretty inexpensive. Christian Brown, 3,800 picking up value. Tari Eason, questionable to play, but a reasonable value from the mid-range on DraftKings. Cason Wallace is showing a little bit on both sites, actually. I'm surprised. 4,200 on FanDuel. I wasn't expecting to see an 11.2% win rate. DraftKings for 38, 17.2% made more sense. Then just looking down the slate, like Gordon Hayward a little bit on both sides, Miles Turner, Yurt 7. Yurt was coming up as one of the more highly owned players in the ownership projections I use. 22 minutes, upside maybe 24, 26, something like that. John Collins, also questionable to play. Still have him in. So if Collins comes out, there's just more, front court minutes for everybody. So maybe he picks up a little bit more. I've got him as an 11% winner right now on FanDuel, 13% on DraftKings. You throw him another 2 to 4 minutes, and you can do that right now. Like, I've just got him on the lower side of his potential minutes. But you could give him 2 more minutes right now, put him at like 25 fantasy points. He comes up maybe 15% on FanDuel, maybe 18, 20% on DraftKings, a little bit better. But I don't know that I see him as a crazy runaway freight train of a great play. And it does look like he's getting a lot of ownership attention right now. So I'm curious about the Yurt 7-1. One to keep an eye on. Jericho Sims, backup center minutes in New York now. 18 minutes projected, 3,500. Min price on both sites. Not really holding much value on FanDuel at the min price because he's center only over there. On DraftKings, power forward and center for 3,000. 12% win rate. That's not bad. He's only got, again, backup center minutes, 18. Just giving him flat 18, 30-18. You could see it go different directions because Hartenstein could, step over and I don't think they're going to play alongside one another, and the Knicks don't have all that many big bodies. So I think it goes that way. But you could see it come. You could see Hartenstein get up to 32, somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe, or you could see him play 28. A little bit less. But I think it's pretty dialed in around this level. So Jericho Sims, don't think he plays much more than 18 minutes under any circumstances. I think you get a decent little piece of value there, considering you can move him between power forward and center on the DraftKings slate. Des Bain, star caliber option at this point, 8,687 on DraftKings, 1.27 DK points per minute, 1.23 on FanDuel. Joel Embiid, a little bit of value on DK, double-digit win rate, just under a double-digit win rate for SGA. Both those guys in single digits on FanDuel. FanDuel's being more aggressive about putting the stars at very high prices. DK, to their relative price point, it's still high, but they're allowing a little bit more room for these guys. That's the top of the board. Let's get into some positions here real quick. It's going to be a quicker rundown than usual because we got to get into football, and it is 5:20. Lone Wolf's here. What's up, Lone Wolf? Didn't see you sneak in there. So again, Malik Monk from the top of the board, 27% winner on the DraftKings slate, the FanDuel slate. For whatever reason, didn't go through the sim on DraftKings, but assume a lower but still playable and decent, maybe somewhere in like this kind of a territory, maybe even a little lower like this. Who's a comparable guy? 61, 57. Why is he on an island price-wise? That's annoying. 63. 6,000. It's shooting guard, small forward. So I would say he'd probably land in this a little better than this. That's a $6,000 Brandon Miller shooting guard and small forward. We're talking about Malik Monk at 61, point guard and shooting guard with a decently better points per dollar. So yeah, call it not quite the FanDuel numbers, but probably around 20%. Guesstimating. Isaiah Joe as a value option, 30% win rate. Not anybody's favorite player. Just 13.6 minutes the last time out and gave you 3.2 FanDuel points. Totally capable of doing that kind of a routine. Both the Dallas guards looking like decent value options. I have a little bit more faith in either of these guys than in the Isaiah Joe piece. Just don't feel like I've ever succeeded with Isaiah Joe. A little bit of bias creeping in on my part, but is a 0.86 FanDuel points per minute, 0.89 DraftKings points per minute player this season. I don't think we're far afield on the projection by any means, but don't love it. Go to OKC real quick in the other file. So he's at in a game where they're picking up a couple of possessions, 2.5 possessions. He's got a 0.85 on the FanDuel scale, and he's been a 0.83 player in reality this season. And I've got him at 0.84, or excuse me, I've got him at 0.85. Last season he was a 0.84 player. So I think it's probably right. Oh, that's why. I just realized why the difference. I'm not going to refer to these last game numbers because these. I'll keep talking about the points per minute for the season. I forgot the last game numbers were not updated since Friday's show, so I'm going to bury those real quick. Actually, I'm going to leave them out. Just remind me if I start talking about them. Just in all the mess, I didn't get to update the backbone statistics, so we're short like two days of basketball here for the season long stats. So some of these numbers will be slightly off. Like Isaiah Joe, like I just said, for the season now is at 0.83, not 0.86 FanDuel points per minute. I updated it in the projections file, but not in the dashboard for the show. So all the projections have all the correct data. Don't worry about the projections. Totally up to date, totally correct data. It's just what you guys get to see here. So like I assume they've played 21 games now, not 20. Fortunately, it was a light weekend of basketball. We just had the one game on Saturday and then nothing on Sunday. So let's keep talking here. Always keep talking. It's the one rule on these shows. Just always keep talking. Tyrese Halliburton, again, just looks great on DraftKings. Definitely want him on FanDuel. I think I want him ahead of this win rate, assuming that he's not overly highly owned. If he's owned around 5%, showing me a 3.45% win rate for a player of his just raw scoring potential, I'm happy to get up to like 8 to 10 if I can. It's just a matter of if I can and how everything falls, because that is a very big price tag. 11.6 compared to the 11.7 for SGA. SGA is coming up a little bit more frequently on FanDuel, 5%, 3.45. On DraftKings, it's reversed, 10.6 for SGA. Doesn't really make a difference versus the 10.9 for Tyrese. That's just powering through. It is a fairly big projection difference there. 59, 56, 62. A lot closer on FanDuel. Brandon Miller I talked about just a second ago, but showing a decent amount of value, 16% win rate on DraftKings. 6,000 shooting guard small forward. Timmy Hardaway, another guy, difficult to trust, but no Kyrie for Dallas, so a lot of minutes available, a lot of opportunity available. He's been a 0.85-ish per minute player on the season, 0.93 on DraftKings. 5.10 points per dollar is not bad for Tim Hardaway. When you can get him around that level, I think he's a fairly strong go-to option. 15% win rate, not a priority, but a very good piece tonight. 11.5% win rate on FanDuel. Similar, not quite as appealing. Kind of happy about that. Desmond Bane, again, 8,600 on FanDuel, shooting guard small forward, 87, same positioning on DraftKings. Around a 5, 4.9 on FanDuel, 4.99 points per dollar, but giving you 1.27 DK points, 1.23 FanDuel points per minute. Had a monster the other night. 35.7 minutes, put up 74.2 FanDuel points. That might be 2 games ago at this point, but just absolutely crushed that night. Capable of putting up a score like that. I didn't talk about the game environments at all. Real quick, couple of appealing ones. Indy and Detroit. I can see that one just being a track meet back and forth. 247 point total last time I looked. 244.5 between Washington and Philly, but Philly favored by 12.5 in that one. You could see a situation where Embiid doesn't play full minutes because they're up so big. We have seen that a couple times this year. 221 points with a 4-point spread between Miami and Charlotte. 226.5, 1.5 point spread between Cleveland and Orlando. Just 220.5. I think that's the low point on the slate between the Knicks and Toronto. Did I say Toronto? It was Orlando and Cleveland. Denver and Atlanta, 241.5, just a 2.5 point spread. That one's another kind of appealing spot. Some star power in that game, some very good role players in that game. So I like that one. Minnie and New Orleans, probably the most frustrating game on the slate in terms of the minutes and just getting these players where they needed to be. 222.5, 4-point spread. Don't really like that game all that much. I don't think we've seen anybody really jump to prominence from that game, fortunately. An 11-point spread between Chicago and Milwaukee, with Milwaukee favored, obviously, 233-point total. Could be a similar situation, but I feel like we've seen that a little bit less with Giannis than Embiid. Maybe that's just me thinking just what I've noticed, whatever the word for that is. San Antonio, Houston, 9-point spread, 223-point total. Feels like that should be a higher total. And some of those guys were coming up like that was a looser game with a higher total. But right now, it kind of is what it is. I don't think we have any critical plays landing from that one. 235.5 between Brooklyn and Sacramento, 4.5-point spread. And then the last game, Portland and LA and the Clippers, 220-point total and a 13-point spread. So we've got some big spreads. We've got a couple of really targetable big totals to focus on. The Dallas-Memphis game, 226.5 with a close spread. That's why I jumped into that initially. I just wanted to see what we were working with total-wise in that one, because we do have several pieces from the Dallas side, plus Luka. We've got several pieces showing through from the Memphis side, like Des Bane. And we've got 2, 3 cheap to mid-range pieces from Dallas. Des Bane here. I'm sure we've got some other ones. Luka down this way. Luka showing a 5.2% win rate for 11.8 on DraftKings. Monster projection, 5.3 points per dollar, 1.65 points per minute on the season. On FanDuel, he's 12-2. Again, just more aggressively high pricing on FanDuel. 2% winner, 1.58 points per minute, 67.5 in 32 minutes a couple games ago. Obviously capable of ceilings higher than that. So in a raw scoring potential, you can get to him on any given slate, but does look a little better on DK. But that's an appealing game. Just considering two good teams, close point spread, and potential to go off with a decent but not crazy high total as this slate goes. Manuel quickly, I gave him 24.5 minutes. He came up, he's questionable. If he doesn't go, obviously don't play him. If he does go, I'm assuming he gets around his usual complement of minutes. Doesn't really show all that much value. Shooting guard and point guard, 5,100 on FanDuel, just 0.08%. On DraftKings, pushing almost a 10% win rate for 4,800. Very scoring dependent player, but he can absolutely go out there and have his nights. Some guys down this way, it drops off for a 13-game slate. We drop out of the double digits pretty aggressively fast. How quickly does it happen on FanDuel? I feel like that's a little bit longer of a stretch of double-digit options. Double-digit win rates on FanDuel with maybe a few more guys standing on the peak. So let's take a quick tour through the bottom here. I'm well aware that we're leaving a lot of guys out as compared to what I normally do. But any of these guys, like through the middle, these 7s, 8s, 9s, 63 for D'Anthony Melton, Dame for 94. Dame for 94 is worth talking about. 9.41% win rate on FanDuel. 9,100 Dame, 15.28% win rate. That's a reasonably good option. If I'm remembering correctly, they were slightly paced down today. Not enough that it would impact him, really. Yeah, just losing like a possession. I've got him at 1.20. He's been 1.22 for the season. Last year, 1.34. Obviously, a little give and take with him and Giannis figuring things out. But certainly has capability beyond where I've got him projected. But I think we're right about in the right spot for that one. A lot of just playable names, right? Like quickly Melton, Terry Rozier, OG, Devin Vassell, Buddy Hield. There's Paul George lurking here. 7.7% win rate on DraftKings, 9.7 on FanDuel. Again, just very, very, very playable for all three of the Clippers pieces. Is just who's going to get there tonight. Kawhi looks a little bit better on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's not on this board. On FanDuel, I think he was more in this same Paul George kind of a range. Freddie VanVleet looking better on FanDuel than on DK. 23% winner over there. 7% perfectly playable on DraftKings, but not a priority. More of a priority, point guard only, 7,800 on FanDuel. Again, just ridiculous minutes. Nobody plays more minutes with regularity than Freddie VanVleet. Cade Cunningham, 13% winner on FanDuel, about half that on DraftKings, 8,200 on DK versus 79. Point guard and shooting guard both sites. Alex Caruso, 5,000 only, showing a lot more value on FanDuel. He's questionable. Assuming he goes, that's a reasonable piece. 5,000 point guard and shooting guard versus 53. Shooting guard, small forward, different positioning. Maybe that has a little bit of an impact, but higher against the DK cap cuts into his value. Donovan Mitchell, Always playable on both sites. 95 on DraftKings, 99 on FanDuel. Killian Hayes, playable, not a priority. 29 minutes, a decent piece in the mid-range. 5.35% winner on FanDuel, 6.3% winner on DraftKings. Jamal Murray, questionable or probable. 10% winner, 5% winner. Let's look for some of the differentiated guys. It looks like it does run fairly deep, like a lot of guys hanging on to some playable single-digit values on the DK slate. Obviously, 13 games, it's going to do that. A couple differentiated guys here. Tyrese Maxey, I like seeing that. 14.5% winner, 8,900 on FanDuel. He's 92 on DraftKings, just 4.5%. Again, playable on that site, but more of a priority on FanDuel. Kevin Huerter, shooting guard, small forward for 51, 26% winner on FanDuel, just 4.1 for 55 on DraftKings. 13% for Malik Beasley, not anybody's favorite player to get to. I don't even want to talk him up, but obviously still a lot of minutes there. But you get a lot of, again, these kind of games. 36 minutes, 12 FanDuel points. Basically, if I have Malik Beasley in my lineup, this is the game that he plays. If I don't, he gives you, this plus standard deviation on some nights. When I've got him, it's this every time. 0.73 on the season, 0.76 on DraftKings. Definitely playable and going to come up on FanDuel. DraftKings, you don't have to worry about that. 6% for Harden, so put him in that same mix with the other two. Ben Mathurin 8.5, Dinwiddie 6.7, 5 for Colin Sexton, 5 for KCP. Think that's probably everybody. Yeah, that's everybody who's really picking up any differentiated value. Jump to some forwards. Matthew Patterson calling the Randall triple-double. I love it. Hey, Greg Biancone says almost 500. Congrats on that. Thank you, buddy. Hit that subscribe if you haven't. Get to 500. What do you think? 500 by the new year? Seems reasonable. Tell your friends. Hell, tell them to spend 10 seconds and go in there and click on something and never come back if they don't want to. Let's see. Touched on Isaiah Joe, but again, that shooting guard small forward eligibility has him up toward the top of the board. He's a point guard only at FanDuel. He's just not looking good at all. But on DK, 30% at the differentiated positioning, just 4,000. It makes sense that he's coming up. I just don't love the player. Jabari Smith, 6,200 power forward only, showing you a 23% win rate on DK. 57 for Dante Exum. We talked about him in the guard spot before, but point guard and small forward, just unique eligibility. Like him on both sites, like him more on DraftKings, and I love that flexibility. Bojan, both sites, 62, 65, cheaper on FanDuel, better win rate on FanDuel, 37.5%. That's pretty monstrous. Looking like the best option at the forward position on FanDuel, I would say, yeah. At least from one of the 40 or so guys that we can see. On DraftKings, Bojan, 22.2%, 6,500, both forward spots. Gotta like that. Kawhi, again, all three Clippers are in the 5 to 8% win rate range on FanDuel. On DraftKings, Kawhi standing out from the other two, but all three are playable. Christian Brown, I talked about before briefly, 3,800 for him, shooting guard and small forward, 20-minute projection, 19.78% win rate on DraftKings, just not showing anything at shooting guard only for 41 on FanDuel. Just a price and position play on DraftKings. Tari Eason, similar, 4,400 both forward spots. If he goes, 19% winner on DraftKings, just 4% on FanDuel. He's a 1.11 per minute player, just not a ton of minutes there for him, so not like a ton of ceiling. 58 for RJ Barrett with the potential to, maybe do more if a piece or two is missing. He could go up. If we see no Brunson, somebody's going to have to take the reins. So RJ probably would pick up a little bit. He's showing some value on DraftKings. Not at all on FanDuel right now. Small forward only. 30 minutes. He's a 0.93 FanDuel per minute player this season, 0.98 on DraftKings. 13% win rate over there for 58, both forward spots is good. For 6 on FanDuel, we're just not getting to him, 0.94% winner. So even if he picks up 2-3 points on FanDuel, not sure how much he's going to come up. I talked about Jericho Sims, but again, you can hit that button on the DraftKings slate. A lot less important on FanDuel where he's a center only. I know he's min-priced, but there's not much appeal to just 18 backup minutes at center only, even for min-price. You would need a lot of weird things to happen for him to play a lot more minutes than that. A 24.9 on FanDuel for Isaiah Stewart, center and power forward for 53 versus 57 on the DraftKings slate, both positions. Makes him about twice as valuable on FanDuel. 24% winner versus pushing 25 versus a 12% winner on DraftKings. Aaron Wiggins, just another annoying piece in OKC, but at 3,600 power forward only, 11.9% win rate. A lot of just, minimum minutes, minimal projected, but they're cheap, so they come up type guys. And a lot more so on DK than on FanDuel, so I'm happy about that at least. Wemby, love the player. Can get to him on both sites. Multiple times I've shown non-NBA fans clips of Victor Wembanyama because I think he's so amazing. Did you guys see, there's a clip going on, by the way, the NBA retweeted it or tweeted it. Some 12-year-old kid who, as compared to the other 12-year-olds, basically looks like Wemby out there. But dude's throwing down 200 dunks and just ridiculous. I forget what his name is. I think I liked it on the Roto Scouts Twitter handle. But just absolutely bananas. If you just go on X and search, NBA and 12-year-old, as much as anybody wants to go search 12-year-old on the internet, Josh Giddey. So yeah, let's get back into this thing. But anyway, that kid's ridiculous. And so is Wembanyama. 4.8% win rate on FanDuel, 11.6 on DraftKings, 8,800 power forward and center. On FanDuel, 96. The price is going up on FanDuel, but still very easy to get to. He's a 1.41 per minute player on FanDuel, 1.38 on DraftKings. But with just explosive ability, given the way that FanDuel scores stocks and what he does, the ceiling is absurd for Wemby on the right night. Trey Murphy, 6.3% winner on FanDuel, 10.5% on DraftKings. Feel like I saw him as a little bit more highly owned than those results would suggest player as well. Keep an eye on where Trey Murphy's owned. There's a lot of directions you can go with that for similar type players, similar type value. He's not even a point per minute player. Like I said, I did not like that Minnesota-New Orleans game just as I was putting it together. I think he's the first piece that's really come up from it. Corey Kispert with the idea that, there might be 2 minutes available. I had him at 23 and I pushed him up to 25 or, somewhere thereabouts. 4,400, not showing us anything on FanDuel. 44, both forward spots, a little bit less than a 10% win rate, but a playable piece on there. Not a priority, not close to a priority, but playable. Buddy Hield, 19% winner on FanDuel at 6,200, 65 on DraftKings, shooting guard, small forward, 7% winner. Again, a lot of playable pieces on a 13-game slate, so we do see a lot of range through these single digits. Normally, our single-digit guys drop into the ones once we're down this part of the screen that I make visible here. So there's a lot of different directions you can go for guys like that. Buddy Hield at 65. 65, same price for Jalen Williams. Looks about the same. Couple of points extra. Not much daylight between an 11.4% winner and a 7.4% winner. Kevin Love, a 5% win rate, 5,200. A lot of pieces missing in Miami. He's a very productive player when those pieces are out. With no Bam, Haywood Highsmith, Tyler Hero, Drew Smith, or Nikola Jovic on the court this season. In 133 minutes, Kevin Love's been a 1.32 FanDuel point per minute player. I looked this up because Orlando Robinson was problematic in this game. In that same situation, he's been in 104 minutes, he's been a 1.14 FanDuel point per minute player. So there's a couple scrappy pieces in that Miami game that are potentially going to be interesting. I got him to... I'm really showing 8 guys here. Did I only project them with 8 guys? Or do I just have somebody who's not? I guess it is just 8 tonight. Jeez. So, no matter how you slice it, it's a very short Miami rotation with all the pieces missing. I feel like I'm missing someone in the list that I'm looking at here, but more to the point, So Orlando Robinson this year in that situation has been at 1.14. He's been playing over his head in general this season. He's been a 1.03 per minute player on the season. Last year, he was a 0.86 per minute player. He's been a 1.10 per minute player for the season, 1.14 in this situation, 0.86 last year. Point being, I've got him at a 1.03 tonight. So a little bit undercutting the current year performance while going over the top of the previous year performance. And obviously, he's got a lot of minutes available. And all of that was to say that Kevin Love looks like a decent play tonight. I know I started talking about Orlando Robinson there. But Kevin Love, as I was saying, he's 1.10 on the season, 0.92 last year. In this situation, as I started talking about, he's been 1.32 this year, and I've got him a little bit below that. I've got him at a 1.28 for the night. So you could definitely go a little bit lower on Kevin Love, but I don't dislike the spot. And again, it's just a 5% win rate on DraftKings, so even that is not making him any kind of high priority. DDR, 5% winner on DraftKings, on FanDuel, 5% winner on DraftKings. Just looks like who he is. Looks for some differentiated plays. Jimmy Butler, there he is. I was wondering. 85 on FanDuel, looks like a critical piece, 28.6% winner over there. Just a 3.9% win rate on DraftKings at 89. Kind of surprised by that. Obviously, there's just everything in the world for Jimmy to do. Everything I said about those guys that are like down bench or backup big men types applies double for Jimmy Butler. On the season, 1.23 per minute player in 180 minutes in this situation with all those guys out. He's been a 1.07 per minute player on the season, but a 1.27 per minute player last year. And we know he's more that guy than he is a 1.07 player. So I've got him at 1.23 for the night. Kind of putting him toward where he was and where he's supposed to be. But a little bit less than what he would have been under normal circumstances last year. And a pretty decent chunk less than what he would have been under these circumstances last year. The hell am I? Kyle Kuzma, as usual, showing a little bit more on FanDuel. 3% winner, 4% winner on DraftKings at 82. Still just 77 on FanDuel, 18.5% winner. Has cooled from his hot start, but overall still 1.21 per minute. Not bad. Mikal Bridges, 20% win rate on FanDuel, just a 1.46 on DraftKings. He's 81 on FanDuel, shooting guard, small forward. Both forward spots, 85, just a different play on DraftKings. 20% winner for Cam Johnson, 5,900, both forward spots on FanDuel. 64, just power forward on DraftKings. No value over there. 8.5 for Ben Mathurin, meh. 13% for Tobias Harris. On the back of just regular minutes, Tobias can occasionally put up a little bit more than this kind of a mean projection. Plug and play type, just get around his mean type of a player in general. A couple of sparks, Paolo, great projection, not a great win rate. Same for Cat. Sadiq Bey, okay projection, not a great win rate. Bogdan. Let's get over to center. We're going to breeze through center. We're going to take a look at some sim results, and then we're going to talk about the NFL slate in very quick terms. Center spot. Hartenstein dominating the top of the board on both sides. 50+% winner on FanDuel, power forward and center. Center only on DraftKings at 46, a 31.5% winner. So a big difference, 15, 16, even more, 20-ish points of win rate across sites, but definitely a critical piece on both. You do just have Nick Richards that you can kind of pivot to. He's kind of siphoning off for the same price. Very, very similar projections, very similar points per dollar, a better points per minute option so far this year. There is a little bit of win rate siphon going on there. You're paying 51 on FanDuel for Nick Richards, 49, and Nick Richards only has center eligibility versus the power forward and center for Hartenstein. So you don't see that effect on the FanDuel slate. Miles Turner, showing us a 13, call it 14% winner on FanDuel. Same number on DraftKings. 7,300, 7,600 center only on both sites. Looks like a very good piece tonight. Could be a good Miles Turner opportunity. He has his games from time to time. Yurt7, like I said, showing some decent win rates. Don't love it. Don't love what the ceiling is. I could be wrong. You could get him out to like 26 minutes. If no John Collins, then, potentially to hit that button a little bit more. But he's coming up as a decent play. I just think that I feel like I saw an ownership number that was significantly higher. So if he's owned at like a 28, 30%, somewhere in that neighborhood, versus these win rates that are like half that, if he's owned like double these win rates, I think you can undercut him. If he's owned around these numbers, you can get to around the field. You could go over, you could go under either way. That's more of just, call the ball. Where if he's like double these win rates, then I think it's kind of back off maybe. Unless things change. If his minutes go up, if his projection goes up and all of that, then obviously there'll be more call to play him. So keep an eye on things. Embiid, Jokic just coming up as who they are. Embiid looking a little bit better. His corner out of the four is the best on DraftKings. 11.5% win rate on DK. 6.2 for Jokic. There's a $200 difference between them on DraftKings. On FanDuel, that's interesting. On DraftKings, Jokic is 200 more. On FanDuel, Jokic is 500 less than Embiid, which is odd. He's been the better per minute player. Again, these are thereabouts numbers. This is missing a game maybe for each of these guys. But call them the same. That's an interesting difference between the two. It results in a 6.8% win rate for Jokic, a little bit less, 4.4% for Embiid. You get Şengün a little bit higher on FanDuel, a little bit lower on DraftKings, 8,900 on DK versus 87 on FanDuel. So again, the center only spot, the fact that you can get Hartenstein at the power forward, I think we can get a little bit of spend in at center on FanDuel, whether it comes up as Şengün, one of the two very high-end items, Miles Turner. So I feel like my approach is probably going to end up a lot of, and we'll see how it comes through the Sims, but I expect we'll see a lot of Hartenstein at power forward. We'll get him at center as well, but a lot of him at power forward. We'll probably get decent amount above these numbers in terms of Embiid and Jokic, and then we'll have a pretty good share of Şengün and a pretty good share of Miles Turner above the projected win rates here, or the sim win rates here, I expect in the FanDuel config. On DraftKings, where you can play multiple versions of these guys, you can play them together. You have a little bit less actual flexibility. No power forward centers. No power forward centers today? Can't be right. There they are. Why did that not come up? Well, there's a few more options for you. Everybody up here was the same. Jericho Sims doesn't matter on FanDuel. Isaiah Stewart, a big piece of that puzzle as well. So it's going to be a lot of Stewart and Hartenstein. I must have just clicked center instead of actually doing the filter because these guys were missing. So a lot of playable, flexible pieces, but fewer overall. It's close, but it's fewer power forward center options on DK, but you get the flexibility of playing with the util spot. I think center / power forward / util, but let's call it like center util, is probably going to be a little bit more value oriented just because you've got multiple options here. $3,000 Sims, $4,700 year at 7, $4,600 Nick Richards, $4,600 Hartenstein, chewing up a decent amount of the win rate. And he gets, before you even get to Isaiah Stewart for 57. 3,400 for Trenton Watford in 14 minutes, 7.6% win rate. Maybe we skip that one for more Jokic or Embiid shares. 65 for Clint Capella gets him on the board at a 5.7% win rate. 52 for Kevin Love. I touched on him before. Şengün just coming up at 4.8% winner. Just a little bit higher priced against the cap on DK. Randall not really hitting the board all that aggressively. Capable of, this kind of a game, 51.7 and 36.6 minutes the other night. Capable of higher, obviously, 1.23 DK points on the season per minute. 4.59% win rate. Not crazy strong on DraftKings either, but going to be... Let me see where we're at. Randall got him slightly above his season number. 1.15 per minute on the season. I've got him at 1.18 in a game where they're picking up less than a possession. But he was a 1.24 per minute player last year, and obviously there's a front court hole. So I could see it. I could see him getting out a little bit beyond even where I've got him, but I'm not going to give him any more than he's getting right now. Giannis, luxury item, 1.3% winner on FanDuel, 4.5 on DraftKings. Pieces that look different, 7.5 for Jaren Jackson, 9.8% winner for Jarrett Allen. Both of those guys in the low single digits on the DraftKings slate. John Collins, if he plays, pushing a 5% rate on FanDuel, just a 0.68 on DraftKings, 6,600 versus 6,900. 6% for Isaiah Jackson. Not really anybody to go out of your way for. I don't think. 4,100 versus 4,000. Power forward only on FanDuel. Center only on DraftKings. Maybe somebody to mix into a few value shares on FanDuel, but nothing to get crazy about. Let's zip this up. Let's look at some sim results on the FanDuel slate here, courtesy of our pals over at acemine.io, as everybody knows. I think. If you guys haven't checked them out yet, it is a great spot to, if you're looking to get into the Sims game. Pretty great spot. All right, you can see we've got NFL ones to talk about here. DK one completed. Hopefully we've got accurate, good results. Let's look at DK. Keeping in mind, again, that what's-his-face didn't go through the DK sim for whatever reason. Who is that? Malik Monk? So we would probably see... Whoops. We'd probably see a couple of Malik Monks maybe across the very top of the board here. So immediately, you can spot a good chunk of Nick Richards landing at center with some Hartenstein sprinkled in, and then a bunch of Hartenstein in those same lineups with Nick Richards in the center spot, in the util spot rather. But it is doing a little bit of back and forth as well, where we've got some lineups where, you know, you get Embiid. You obviously got 3 Turner shares right here, and he was looking really good. Don't know that we've got one, and we'll scroll down a little. Let's see. I'm not immediately spotting one where it's a double spend or like a Embiid mid. It looks like it's at least one value option between center and util. It's just exactly what I was saying. It's exactly how I expected it to land. Yeah, like all these Jokic's, all these Embiids have like Richards or Hartenstein on the other side. Embiid, Hartenstein, Embiid, Hartenstein. Richards, Hartenstein, Richards, Embiid. Even Turner is mostly picking up with value. Mike Muscala we didn't touch on. Picked up some minutes with the absence of Gafford. Not a high priority, but looks like he hit the board a little bit as one of those value options. Looks like we've got some spend at the point guard spot for sure. You see a little Dennis Schroeder creeping in around the edges, but primarily some Tyrese Maxey, some Tyrese Halliburton, some Luka. Luka, again, was not showing a crazy high win rate on DraftKings, but jumps into just on the back of raw scoring, even comes through some sims in top lineups. That's a top 10 lineup. So that's why you get to those guys. That's why you want to be saving for those guys. You can see where the savings come into that lineup because it's got RJ Barrett, who I don't love, Seth Curry, Nick Richards, Hartenstein. So this one's a double value center spot. You get Jimmy into that. Christian Brown, Gordon Hayward. I gotta say, I don't really love that lineup. That is very star scrubsy. Not even stars and scrubs. Like Jimmy's a star. I'll give Jimmy credit. So stars, superstar, star, okay, mid-range type guy. And then a lot of meh. Getting some okay spend. Looks like a mid-range type position at the shooting guard spot. Some Quickly in there, some Vassell, some OG. Cade Cunningham, one of the better players that lands at that position. D'Anthony Melton. Similar at small forward, it looks like, and power forward, really, where we're getting a lot of just mid-type guys. It's not total value plays, but it's certainly not stars at any of these spots, really. Emmanuel Quickly, Bruce Brown, Jericho Sims, Seth Curry, Buddy Hield, Kyle Kuzma. Christian Brown, Jimmy Butler, Gordon Hayward is probably the best group. That is that Luka lineup. Devin Vassell, Kawhi Leonard, Jericho Sims, that's not bad with Exum at the point, Nick Richards, Isaiah Joe, Jabari Smith, Jokic. So at least you get Jokic on the back end of that one. I was starting to worry about that as I was reading it. It is very starsy scrubsy on this DraftKings slate tonight. SGA, Paul George with Cason Wallace, Jabari Smith, Hartenstein, Kevin Love, Buddy Hield. Good God. Donovan Mitchell, IQ, Kawhi Leonard, Jabari, Miles Turner, Exum, Wiggins, and Hartenstein. Aaron Wiggins. This is a slightly more balanced lineup, just eyeballing these. But even that is still like... again, I mean, like Hartenstein looks great tonight. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't, but just in a name brand kind of a reaction. Oh, this one's got Luka in it too. I didn't notice him there. Hiding in the guard spot. So it does look like you can flex some value into your guard spot. Whether you put it here or over here is irrelevant. But this one, actually, this one's interesting. This one's got Tyrese and Dame. Miles Turner, not bad, with Hartenstein. That's 4 decent pieces. Christian Brown, Dante Exum, who looked very good today. Tari Eason, who looked all right. And Timmy Hardaway. That's not bad compared to some of these others. That next one down with Tyrese, Tari Eason, Aaron Wiggins, Turner, Freddie Van Vliet, Paul George. Picks up on the back end. These 4 not bad. Obviously Tyrese. So really, any way you swing it, it looks like you're going 3 value-ish mid-range types. 1 definitely coming at either the center or the util spot, just depending on how you put your lineup together. And then probably 2 between shooting guard, small forward, power forward, or just the forward spot. Seems like most of these are configured around that kind of a setup. Our top projected lineup, because I know some people like to see it, was an $82 average winner, so it didn't perform as well as some of these others you can see down here. Some $100 winners. Your top winner was a $212. But your top projected was Melton, Brandon Miller, Isaiah Joe, Derrick Jones, Nick Richards, Tyrese, Kawhi, and Isaiah Hartenstein. I don't love Tyrese Halliburton, by the way. I don't love that one. Next one down was Tyrese Halliburton, IQ, Bojan, Jabari Smith, Nick Richards, Sohan, Isaiah Joe, Miles Turner. It's a little bit more comfy, I think. Consistently, Tyrese Halliburton in these top projected lineups, though. In store for a monster, potentially. Let's get, 6 o'clock. FanDuel, take a quick look. Oh, look at all the Malik Beasley. Oh, good. It's not actually that problematic. But there's some here, there's some up here. As usual, FanDuel, the lineup's just on a name recognition point, kind of just look better. Getting a lot of Miles Turner at the center spot. Some Yurt. Some decent Isaiah Stewart shares. Alma Hartenstein is coming up at the power forward spot. Glad to see a little Jaren Jackson creeping through. Tobias Harris, who I did touch on real quick, was better FanDuel play. Coming through in the top 3 lineups there. Kind of interesting. Getting some Embiid, some Jokic. So those guys did come up a little bit. What was there? Yeah, so Jokic comes up versus what was like a 4.5% win rate, if I remember. Like comes up like 8%. So remember I was saying if the field's at like, comes in around those win rates, I would want to be a little bit higher. 8 to 10, landed at 8 in these top 50. Embiid's got to be in this general vicinity. Embiid, 5%. It's a little bit less. That's versus a 3.8%, a 4.4% win rate. So the Jokic one was versus a 6.8%. So a little bit ahead of the field. But the field was projected for a 3.6%. So we're basically doubling up the field's ownership on a player who's coming out with a better win rate than his ownership. And a superstar player at that. 3%, we're doing the same with Embiid. So I like to see that. Could even put my finger on the scale a little bit on those. Alex Caruso definitely hitting the board a decent amount. We're getting some spend, though, at the guard spots. There's some CJ McCollum who looked very good today. Some Dame Lillard, some SGA, Cade Cunningham. This one, SGA, Cade Cunningham. Dante Exum, Ben Mathurin. Miller, Kuzma, Hartenstein. Right, that was Miller, Kuzma, Hartenstein. Cam Johnson, I'm going to guess. Cam Johnson and Isaiah Stewart. That's an interesting one. Monk. So Monk hits the board for sure on FanDuel, like we were expecting. Monk, Luka, Exum, McHale, Ben Matherin, Trey Murphy, Hartenstein, Kuzma, and Stewart again. It's not bad. So FanDuel-wise, it looks like you can spend at both guard spots, I would say. Both point guard spots. You mostly have like spend or mids at the shooting guard spot as well. Like Cade, Van Vliet, Buddy Hield, Paul George. That's three fairly pricey, three higher end guys, and a solid mid-range guy. They also get Bojan and Tobias Harris in that lineup. Kyle Kuzma, I kind of like this one. Isaiah Hartenstein and Yurt at the center spot. Yurt's my least favorite piece of that lineup, but that's not bad. FanDuel, a lot more balance. Probably a product of having the star players up so high versus their cap that kind of force you into the mid-range, where DraftKings, it seems like their approach to the game is like, we want somebody to have to use one of these $3,000 guys, these cheap 18-minute guys. We want to make these bench players relevant to our game, where FanDuel's more oriented toward the starters, the top 8, somewhere around there. So that's why you just see it results-wise come up like this. Cade Cunningham landing in a lot of these. I like Cade Cunningham. Good player. Paul George coming up a decent amount. Looks like Paul George is outpacing just by a little bit, just by spotting him in some of these. But it does look like he's outpacing on FanDuel some of the other two. Good boy, Joker. I bet everybody can hear you breathing over there. So that's the FanDuel slate. Charles Moran says, Richards or Yurt 7, FanDuel GPP 1 lineup. FanDuel, Richards. Hey, wait, let me just do it this way. Ah, damn it. It's probably Yurt 7. I don't love them. But even right now, why do I keep not adding this? I'm so dumb. I'm trying to sort where I put them both on my screen. It's not even so that you guys can see it. It's just to put them on my screen. I'll put it back just because that took so much goddamn effort. We wonder why these shows run long. So that's them side by side. So on FanDuel, you're seeing obviously on a much higher win rate for Yurt 7 right now. 5,100 versus 44 at center only is probably all the difference there. And Yurt 7 between the two is the one that has a little bit more opportunity to pick up minutes beyond what he's projected for. So considering those factors, I would probably lean Yurt 7. It's the opposite on DraftKings. It's still the situation where Yurt 7 between the two might pick up a few additional minutes beyond what he's getting here, and maybe it becomes more evened out. But pretty clearly on DraftKings for 46, Nick Richards 25% win rate, just a much cheaper option over there. So it's just a very different value play across sites. On FanDuel, I would lean Yurt 7. On DraftKings, right now, I would lean Nick Richards. And with that, we're going to wind the basketball portion of the show down. We're going to wind the show down, right? Except for the other half. And we're going to get into some of this. And we're going to try and leave ourselves enough time to get some basketball lineups done. And remember the fact that we've got to update the website for basketball as well. Yeesh. All right. Okay. Situationally speaking, we've got a 45.5 point total in one game, and we've got a 37 point total in the other one. We've got one of the best offensive teams in football and probably the best passing attack in football going up against one of the worst pass defenses in football. I think it's very obvious to say that Miami has the best overall options for this slate. You do have a little bit of that's where everybody else is. Resort that. You've got the two-headed backfield, obviously, in play for Miami, which is potentially a factor. I'll get this sort right at some point. Both Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert project out very, very well. They can both have carries, and they're both so explosively good that even if one is outpacing the other, and last time it was A-Chain, but he caught up late in the game when they were, in kind of blowout run. I expect in a level game, they would probably be even-ish. So I think it's fair where they're projected. But the note there is they are going up against the Tennessee defense that is allowing just 3.7 yards per rush attempt this year. That's fourth in football. So between the rush defenses, theirs is really good, and then Miami's themselves is very good. Miami's the best overall defense on the slate, seventh in both categories, 3.9 yards per rush attempt, 6.1 yards per pass attempt. Tennessee's just a pass funnel. So maybe I don't get carried away. Like, my first instinct was I like both these guys. I'll be totally happy to have one or the other, or even both probably in a couple of lineups. But I think if they get carried away with like field ownership, that's an easy spot to maybe say, all right, I'll undercut them and I'll take my A.J. Dillon shares. I'll take my Saquon Barkley shares, certainly. I'll take my Derrick Henry shares. And I'll just go different directions if they get a little bit popular. Obviously, the passing attack here is something to zero in on. Tyreek Hill projects like a quarterback every week. Almost a lock and load, 100 yards and a touchdown. Tua is projecting for the bonus on DraftKings, and I left it because I think it's reasonable. A lot of times I'll just jump in and kill it, but I think it's reasonable to give it to him today. So Tua looks fantastic on both sites, but even better on DraftKings. Jalen Waddle looks great. The downstream options, Braxton Berrios, Ced Wilson, the tight end Durham Smythe. There's not a ton there, but let's remember, 2-game slate. You do want to embrace some of those options for just cheapness' sake, for differentiation's sake. Not necessarily the Julian Hills with a 0.6 projection. Not necessarily the Chase Claypools, even the very low-end guys. You don't have to get carried away like it's a showdown slate. But some of these, like, the 3.8s, the Matt Breidas of the world, the Sterling Shepherds, the guys who might touch the ball a couple of times. The Patrick Taylors of the world. Dontavian Wicks I like a lot, actually. Those type guys, you definitely want to be sure that you're mixing in on a 2-gamer. The Packers, Jordan Love, really like the spot. 6,000, 7,700 across sites. Probably not expensive enough, just considering the 2-game slate nature of it and the fact that, compared to Tommy DeVito at 51.66 or Will Levis at 53.66 against the best defense on the slate, that leaves a lot of room for Jordan Love. Going up against the Giants defense, 4.8 yards per rush attempt ranks 30th, 6.7 yards per pass attempt ranks 22nd. And I can tell you for sure that they're not even this good. 6-point spread in New York, 37-point total, not the most appealing spot. I believe in the Jordan Love thing at this point. I was very much a skeptic about 8 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago, and he's really won me over with his performance lately. He's looking like a different quarterback from the guy who started this season. So I'm kind of on board. I like the Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks trio of receivers. I think any one of those guys has potential tonight. Wicks picked up a few targets in the last game, has some scoring potential. Tucker Kraft as a cheap tight end option, or on this slate, they're all cheap, and he's just one of the more realistic ones. So I think Tucker Kraft is a very playable tight end on this slate. I think you could probably even throw some darts at Malik Heath, some darts at Patrick Taylor as the second running back. No Aaron Jones again. So just dealing with the A.J. Dillon show. The piece of this offense that's going to get attention, that projects well, that I'm the least comfortable with, even against the terrible Giants defense, is probably A.J. Dillon, just because we've seen that before. We've seen that 16 carries, 38 yards, no score type game from A.J. Dillon before. But I think he's definitely on a short slate, a piece of the puzzle. Samori Toure, if he gets a look or two, maybe burns the Giants defense. On the Giants side, Tommy DeVito, not at all a believer here. I've been talking about it since the start of the him getting snaps. He was on the team because it was a cute story that he lives at home in New Jersey and eats chicken parm and everything. That's why he was on the team initially. And I know that he's won some games. And I know that he's looked somewhat capable out there. This is all going to come crashing back to earth. This is not Tom Brady. He projects out all right. It's essentially a nothing plus the 12 points that I give to these guys. So that's like what Will Levis has here. Will Levis had a little bit more meat on the bone, but Will Levis, I could go in and make up a back end projection, or I could have a couple of weeks ago, but he's been effectively around like this level anyway. So it's just the 12 that I give these backups when they step into this role. You could argue that Tommy DeVito should be projected maybe a point higher. Will Levis could be a point higher. I'm comfy with where they are. It's about the expectation I have for these guys. DeVito's going up against a pass defense that has been reasonably effective this year as well. 6.3 yards per attempt. Ranks 11th overall in the NFL. He just has really lousy receivers to work with too. Daniel Bellinger is banged up, was questionable as of the last time I saw any injury reports. Working with Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slate, and Wan'Dale Robinson. This is not a very good group of receivers. They don't project like it. On a 2-game slate, everybody's playable. They become even more playable on the back of just not costing anything. So the Giants are going to land in your lineups just because they're so cheap. But the guy that I really want to get to on this is kind of obvious, Saquon Barkley. Pick up a ton of touches, going up against the rush defense that ranks 26th, allowing 4.5 yards per rush attempt. I think there's plenty of good reason to go to Saquon. He's going to be popular. It's a 2-game slate, though. One of the more clear-cut approaches to booking some kind of certainty of points. Derrick Henry's also on that list. Like certainty of points, barring injury or exception. Derrick Henry, Saquon, outside of the quarterbacks, obviously. Tyreek Hill. A split guarantee between these two. Jalen Waddle, I'll put on that list. I'm stopping short of putting A.J. Dillon on guaranteeing anything more than like a 35-yard type game. I think he does do better, but guarantee, no sir. DeAndre Hopkins, maybe borderline to that list. But 4 teams in play, there's not a lot of guaranteed sources of fantasy points. So Saquon just becomes good chalk. Tyreek becomes good chalk. And obviously chalk with explosive must-have upside. Even at 70-something% ownership, if Tyreek goes out there and puts up a 30-plus point game on a 2-game slate, you're just gonna need him. It's as simple as that. Giants certainly help you diversify. Derrick Henry's kind of a go-to. But again, the Titans going up against a good defense. I expect that renders these guys lower owned than most of the slate. Chigakonkwo, one of the better overall tight end options on this board. I think projects as the highest end tight end. I don't love what he's done all season, but on a 2-gamer, I do think that he's probably going to be an important piece of builds. Tajee Spears could be a potential differentiation piece. Projects out okay. He's not all that expensive. Where you don't go to Derrick Henry, I think getting to Tajee Spears makes a little bit of sense. Treylon Burks, I also think, is an interesting differentiation piece. Didn't see a ton of routes or targets in his return, but ran some routes, was targeted a few times, and some specific coach speak saying, hey, we're going to get Treylon Burks involved a little bit more this week. So where he's priced, $3,000 on DraftKings, $5,000 on FanDuel, could be a critical value play there. Westbrook probably takes a step back. Akini probably takes a step back. Chris Moore. Westbrook and Akini, both of them, and Chris Moore, taking a little bit of a step back if that comes to fruition with Treylon Burks. Neither one is a high-end priority type guy anyway, so I'm not really worried there. Talked about Chig. DeAndre Hopkins, obviously a primetime go-to receiver type. If they're going to hang in this game at all, these two players are going to need to step up and have a game, right? It's pretty straightforward there. But I think you can play these guys even without expectation of them hanging in this game, just as I've got 65, I've got 72, whatever the spot is, and I can plug in a fairly high-end player rather than saying, well, give me Malik Heath. Just not the kind of option you want. You will have a ton of people going to that, though, which leads to extra ownership. The most critical component on this slate is going to be differentiation. It's not a showdown slate, but it plays similar to one, especially with the weight of the world on the back of the Dolphins. 6:16, we're officially overtime. So that was your breakdown for football. We're not going into the positions or the individuals any more than that, but what we will do is take a look at some sim results and some lineups. Yes, it worked. Fuck yeah. This is DK. So quite a bit of Tua. Quite a bit of Saquon. Mostert popping through. Only, let's see, one in these top, call that like 20-ish lineups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 A.J. Dillons. Maybe there's more of them over here. Yeah, a couple more of them over here. Call it like half the top 20 there. We'll get into the player data in just a second. Hey, there's Treylon in the top lineup, though. What a call by me. Love it. Let's just call that the winner. Tua Tagovailoa, Raheem Mostert, Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, Treylon Burks, Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft, A.J. Dillon. I literally would have hand-built that lineup. I don't love the fact that there's... no, I can't say that. It's a 2-game slate. I don't care about the fact that there's a 3-man secondary stack. When we're on main slates, if you're using Ace Mind, the pool, if you use the pool to build like a big pool of lineups, it is important to be wary that you will get from time to time some secondary stacks that creep out to like 2-3 guys, a QB plus 3. So I try and filter some of those out outside of the ones that are just like outperforming everything else anyway. But sometimes I don't like to get that much weight, especially into a non-quarterback stack. So just something to keep in mind. Ton of Tua here. Ton of Tyreek. A lot of those Giants receivers, though, creeping through. Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson. I don't love that. Sterling Shepard or Darius Slayton or Wan'Dale Robinson in any one of these is perfectly fine. Some of these were Tyreek's landing in these latter spots. Fair amount of Treylon coming up. I'm happy about that. That was one I was eyeballing. I don't know what his ownership looks like, but I don't really care. Giants defense landing in some of these. They're not that expensive. They're not very good at all. They're going to get lit up, but yeah, hope for the best. Some decent winners there. Let's get into the player data real quick. By win probability, Tyreek Hill, 75% probable winner. And going into this sim, he was projected at 81% ownership. He came up at 88% in the top 150 lineups. That just basically means even at 81%, the 75% win rate is getting outpaced. He's still a 6.25 ROI guy. He's just in the winning lineup almost all the time. So if you wanted to tell me that you were locking Tyreek Hill on this slate, considering that he came up more frequently in these top 150 than in the field's ownership, I don't think it's necessarily a mistake. Excuse me, the projected ownership was 76%. He came up at 88. So our win rate is right around our projected ownership, and we got to him more with a positive ROI. Looks like a great option. Tua Tagovailoa, similar story, projected for 50% ownership, comes up as a 7.8 ROI, lands in winning lineup 63% of the time, so greatly outpacing his projected ownership here. 13 percentage points between his win probability and his projected ownership, getting to him in 84 of the top 150 lineups. A.J. Dillon. Is that 84 or is that 80? I'm not sure if that's percent or... It's probably percent. That just dawned on me that this might be 84 out of 150 versus 84% of the 150. It's probably percent. We can eyeball it in a minute. A.J. Dillon, 57% win rate. So as much as I'm uncomfortable about A.J. Dillon's success, obviously coming up as a critical piece, projected at 44% ownership. Shouldn't be giving away all these ownership percentages either, I just realized. Waddle, massive ownership. So he lands below his projected ownership in terms of his win probability. 25% of the top lineups here, or 25 out of 150, depending on how that goes. So maybe that suggests that Waddle's a little overowned. Where are the other quarterbacks coming through? So if you go to any other quarterback, you go from a 63% win rate. Jordan Love gives you a 24%. So that's like 88% of your win rate between Jordan Love and Tua Tagovailoa. And if you're thinking about going to Will Levis or Tommy DeVito, you're dealing with like 8%, 5%. It's a big drop, but it's also a big dip in potential ownership. They don't come up all that often in sims because they're not overly good plays. They are potential points of differentiation. So there's a little bit of an argument to be made to, hold your nose, buy a couple of shares. Oh, fuck, I got to get out of here. 620. Let's look at FanDuel. FanDuel slate looks a little bit more differentiated at the quarterback position right out of the gate. Look at that. That is not nearly as... He's in there, but that is not nearly as much Tua. He picks up some shares through the middle here in this top 150. But that's interesting. Looks like you can do a lot more at quarterback on FanDuel. Mostert, Derrick Henry, some Dobbs, and Jaden Reed, Tyreek Hill, Chigakonkwo, Treylon lands in there like that with Green Bay defense. Tyreek Hill all over these lineups, of course. Jalen Waddle coming up in a fair amount of them. Another one I'm not seeing a ton of is Saquon, actually. He's here. And he's here. And down here. But he's not here or here so much. It's over here. A little less Saquon than I would have expected. I'm sure he picks up some as we scroll down as well. Jaden Reed definitely coming up a fair amount. That Packers passing game is kind of looking interesting, though. Between Reed, Dobbs, and what's his face? Actually, it was what's his face even coming up that much? Where is he? Dontavian, that's who I'm thinking of. There he is. A little bit downboard for the first Dontavian shares. Looks like we're grabbing one pretty deep value kind of a guy in a lot of these FanDuel lines. Oh, there's a Dontavian lineup that I missed. One pretty cheap type guy. Like a Braxton Berrios obviously is not great. A little bit of room for some of these Giants receivers. Maybe not. Maybe it's not as... maybe it was just Berrios that jumped out at me. Because most of these other guys are pretty viable. Outside of the Giants guys, obviously. Westbrook-Ikhine is kind of on that list. That's what it was. It was the combination of these two guys being right next to each other that jumped out at me as I was talking there and saying maybe there's a little bit of value. But it looks like we're getting plenty of spend, obviously, at all these spots because there's tons of money on the table tonight. A lot of money going into the flex spot on FanDuel. A lot of running backs coming up there. Basically, three-headed running back. Three good running backs. Fill in value, whatever you can afford at receiver, but you can go down to like a Berrios or a Westbrook-Ikhine so that you can get Tyreek Hill, Treylon Burks, Jalen Waddle in the flex with Chigakonkwo, one of the more expensive tight ends. Or you can go a little bit more balanced through your receiving core with like a Hopkins, Doubs, Jalen Waddle, and then you're getting Derrick Henry, A-Chain, and Dillon there with a Will Levis quarterback. So that's not terrible. I want to see what those quarterback ownerships are, though. Tua, 55% winner. Came up in 47 of the top 150 there. Tommy DeVito, just an 8% winner. Will Levis, 12%. So there's, this was what, 80-ish% on DraftKings? Right? Or was it like 75%? And then Jordan Love was the rest of it. It was basically these two guys were 88% together, I think. So a little bit more room for Tommy DeVito and Will Levis. Will Levis most particularly. 12% win rate, landed in 16 of those. Not bad. Top winners overall on FanDuel. Tyreek Hill, no surprise. Jalen Waddle, A.J. Dillon, Tua. The Packers defense. Mostert and A-Chain next to each other. That Miami double running back might win another slate. Power says, I predict Cager outscoring Kraft if Bellinger is ruled out. That's a tight end slate. That is a ugly tight end slate, my friend. Cager would be an interesting little curveball if Bellinger doesn't go. With that and that extra loud swallow that I just did for whatever reason there, I think I'm going to punch out. It is 6:26. I do have NBA lineups to build still, and I've got to get this site updated for all those people who aren't watching this show right now. So let me leave you with a good luck, a somebody go win something, and I'll see you tomorrow. I think it's just basketball tomorrow. I've completely lost track. Let's see. Jalen Suggs and Jonathan Isaac are both playing. That's good. Jalen Brunson is available. DeAndre Hunter is out. Those are the only NBA updates I've gotten via push notification. So let me get that stuff updated, guys. I will see you later. Good luck tonight. Adios.